Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, the Prime Minister of Sweden has admitted to using AI chatbots to get a, quote, second opinion on his decisions. I'll tell you what, I don't blame him one bit. An AI is almost like an omniscient being. It knows everything. And because it knows everything, it can outperform even the best thinkers in most cases, right? Because it doesn't have to spend all the time researching like we do, right? And so what it can do is it can really cut down that learning curve for the average individual who wants to use it to learn. And so this guy here is actually consulting the AI, right, saving some of his time to get those second opinions before they make the decisions. And in addition to that, ChatGPT, you can say, play devil's advocate for me, right? And you can type it away for the next 10 minutes your ideas, or even speak them, or do whatever, have a conversation with it, and it will tell you the opposing view, and it will give you opposing evidence, especially if you use the research-oriented, prompts, right? Especially or our research-oriented models, right? The ones that actually sort of kind of think in some regards, for a few minutes at a time, and they spit back an answer with 50 sources. It's like that is the future, ladies and gentlemen, and we need politicians who are actually using this to the best of their advantage to make the most informed decisions for the voter base. But having said that, I'm not going to let you off scot-free. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to do it. There are some actual concerns with this happening. Right, the first one here is security concerns, which he admitted that he does not put any personal or like private information that be classified into ChatGPT, right, or any chatbot for that matter. So that's great, right? That's wonderful, right? We don't need them, putting top secret information into any of these chatbots. So that's the first thing. The second thing here is this idea that the person themselves actually has to know what they're talking about, and that the voter actually has to hold them accountable for this. So using AI is fine, but if you have absolutely no idea what it is that you're talking about without AI, that's a problem, right? I mean, it's just like doctors, right? It's like, yes, right now, you should probably be happy if your physician's actually typing your symptoms into ChatGPT, right? Like, you should probably be happy if that's happening, right? Because that means your physician is not arrogant enough to say that I know absolutely everything and I'm always right about everything. I'm going to get a second opinion, not only from my colleagues, but also from a source that can really rationally think and is relatively... Obviously, there's a lot of subjectivity to ChatGPT, and there's a lot of bias here, which is what we're going to get to next. But a little bit more objectivity. Sometimes you step back a little bit, right, and see things a little bit more. Or you can get a list of things. You might have forgot something, right? I mean, there's like you should be happy if that's happening. But in the same breath, you also don't want a doctor that didn't go to medical school and is just playing ChatGPT. That is a problem, right? And that's what's happening more and more at universities. And I see it. I mean, I teach history, and and not in university, but I do teach history, and one of the things I notice is AI has become more and more prevalent as time goes by, right? And I'll tell you this too. A lot of the people that I know, like some peers, at different institutions and universities, that you can see, when you just go on like Reddit or something, like a lot of them use AI, and it's like, oh, that's a problem, right? Because if you're just using AI and you can't actually think yourself, or you don't actually know the information yourself, I'm not saying that you always need to, but what I am saying here is that it makes you lazy. Right? And you become complacent, not knowing anything. And when you don't know anything, you fall risk to companies perverting their power to manipulate you. Right? So that's going to be the third point here. The idea, this is the last thing that you have to be very careful of. The idea that a company like, say, OpenAI, or Google, for instance, or wherever, right? They can manipulate the models to lie to you. Or the model could even lie to you itself, right, as they become more and more advanced. And there could even be coded for bias, right? So we only want to give you more liberal perspectives, and we want to censor the conservative news, or we want to, give you more conservative perspectives, and we want to censor the liberal news, or we're only going to show you certain sources. It's only going to pull from certain sources, and now you're going to be stuck in a position where you're not getting all the facts. They're keeping you in the dark. They're keeping you in the blind, right? They want to manipulate every little thing that you think, how you feel, and eventually how you act. Ladies and gentlemen, that is dangerous. And so, with that said, while I think it's a great thing, you have to be very careful. And as the voters, we have to start holding our politicians very, very accountable with this. And we have to do our own research ourselves as best we can. Obviously, there's always bias floating around. Anybody who says they look at news without bias, they don't know what they're talking about. And anybody who says they don't have their own biases doesn't know what they're talking about. So there's biases floating around everywhere. And yes, you're always being manipulated by propaganda, even if you think you're more immune to it than anybody. But we can do our best to try to avoid it. And that's what we have to do. We have to do our own research. We have to make up our mind, and we have to come to some credible decisions based on what we feel to be true, accurate, and moral, and just. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching today. It's an interesting question. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. Should politicians be using ChatGPT, or should they just be careful with it? Like I mentioned here. Should they not use it? Be careful with it. What's the case here? What do they got to do if you want to be a politician and use AI? It's interesting stuff. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for some more content here. We're almost at 300 subscribers, and we're very close. So hit that subscribe button here. Help out that algorithm. And I will see you later, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful day.